Good afternoon and welcome to the results show for Class M, Le Mans 1961 to 1970. Delighted to see you, and the Concours is presented by Haggerty, and this class is sponsored by our friends at EFG Private Bank. My name is Jeff Love, I'm the co-chair of the Concours. To my right is David Lillywhite, and joining us, we're delighted to welcome Derek Bell, 5-time Le Mans winner. Hi, Derek.
All right, nice to see you again.
And you. So, 1961 to 1970, early years dominated by the Ferraris, and then we had the Ferrari-Ford wars in the middle, and then towards the end came the amazing 917s, of which Derek is obviously very well known to. So, before we talk about the judges' votes, David, give us the 3-2-1 of the people's voting in this particular class.
Okay, so people's vote. This was, well, so many votes for so many different cars, but the three that came out on top. Third place, 1967 Ford Mark IV. Now that was the first all-American win at Le Mans. The car is owned by the Henry Ford Museum in Detroit, and it's really well preserved. It had a minor accident in transport a few years ago, but they managed to repair it and just keep all the original features. So very, very special car. Second place is the 1963 Rover BRM gas turbine. Now, an amazing car. It was allowed to run in its own special class. And although technologically, it was a bit of a dead end in the end. It was just one of those sort of impressive British feats of engineering. And that is owned by the British Motor Museum in the UK. First place, 1966 GT40. That was the winning car in 66. It was, belongs to Rob Kaufman. Now, it's kind of famous for this 1-2-3 win for Ford. And obviously, you've probably seen that in the Ford versus Ferrari wars. Now, this Rob Kaufman is RK Motors in Charlotte, and he had this car restored. And it's really quite special. It's the black GT40. Have a look on the site. So congratulations to all of you. Well done. Now, I'll hand to Jeff.
Sorry, yes, thanks, David. That was the people's vote. Three great cars, and it's amazing, really, for such a class. We had 5 outright winners of Le Mans, so we're delighted that the big collectors, the museums, all came out to support the Concours Virtual, which is in aid of UNICEF. So I'm going to hand back to David, actually, because David, as well as being co-chair, was also the chief judge of this particular class. So, David, if you could explain how you went about choosing the particular cars, who was on the judging panel, and then talk through the 3-2-1 with Derek. That'd be great. Thank you.
Will do. So obviously my main task was keeping that Derek Bell fellow in order, which isn't easy. So we had a really great judging panel. We had 5 times Le Mans winner Derek Bell. It is actually illegal to say Derek Bell without saying 5 times Le Mans winner. And we had Sir Chris Hoy, who's obviously an Olympic cyclist, but also a Le Mans racer. He's really into his cars, and he's very, very knowledgeable. Marino Franchitti, another Le Mans racer. He loves it, and he loved listening to Derek's stories as well. Gregor Fiskin, another Le Mans racer, but also a top London car dealer. Vicky Butler Henderson, best known for Top Gear and Fifth Gear, but also a racer herself. And Duccio Lopresto, who is a big Italian collector. He's the son of Corrado Lopresto, who's got the most amazing collection, really the top collection in Italy, possibly Europe. So an all-star cast, really, and then there was me.
You've
we
raced
went very much.
A35s, David.
Yes, I did race A35 Austins. So, as Derek pointed out, they're very important in the big scheme of racing. So we were very much looking for provenance and sort of authenticity and originality of cars, kind of what they achieved and what they mean to Le Mans. And I think now is the time for me to be quiet and hand over to the real star here. So 5-time Le Mans winner Derek Bell, if you'd like to take us through the 3-2-1, please, that would be fantastic.
Well, firstly, I'd just like to say what fun it's been with the group we had judging. We had lots of laughs, and it was very interesting because obviously from 61 to 6 or 60 to 69 and basically 70, there was some intriguing cars. It's a big era. I mean, 10 years is a massive era. And of course, in the beginning, we had Ferrari all the way through to 66. And then we had the Fords coming in. And then we finally finished with Porsche. And they all had a reason to be there. And they all made it very much their own. And so for very good reason. And obviously in the middle, of course, we had the BRM Rover turbine, which was amazing to have. And I remember it at the time with Graham Hill driving it. I think Graham had driven faster cars, but it was nevertheless a wonderful feat of engineering. So, you know, and then we had Bizzarini, and we had a Uso Grifo, and we had a very special Jaguar E-Type, the Linda Knocker car. So we had a cross-section of all the cars of that era. And it wasn't easy to judge, but we did feel quite strongly that we had to look at the cars that really made that 10-year period. And so we chose the Ferrari 250P with Scarfiotti and Bandini done so well with in sort of, I think, 1963. And then from that, we sort of went through to the Fords, and when they came in, and so we had third place was the Ferrari 250P. Then we had the 66 Ford doing so well, Ford GT. And then we finished with the 917, really as car number one of the three cars, because the 917 was the beginning of the Porsche era, very much just getting in there, the amazing development they did, how they did it, and what Porsche then meant to sports car racing from then really till now. So we would pretty much all agree that was the order they should be in. I had nothing to say about it should be a Le Mans, you know, the 917, but obviously we all felt very strongly about that particular car because it was outrageous. So there you have it. The 917K, the short tail, the 66 Ford GT, and of course the Ferrari 250P, which was very special.
Thank you very much. And there was, I listened to the discussion of the judges, and there was a little bit of discussion between the Mark IV and the GT40 at some point, wasn't there, as to which one should be given the nod.
Yeah, I didn't really want to get into that because it was a major discussion in those years. And I think we saw it all through having watched the movie. But yeah, that's absolutely true. But we just felt it was the beginning of an era, and the way that they went about winning it. And you know, the drivers, it was just a very tricky race. And we just felt that deserved it. If we could have had a first and a third and nobody would have moaned, we would have brought both of them into the top three. But we just thought we really can't do it because we're talking about a 10-year period, and the Ferrari deserved to be there because it was such an integral part of that 10 years. And then of course the 917 at the end, you couldn't leave the sort of first and second car out just for the Ford to have two Fords in there.
And the 917, there was a couple of votes for the hippie car as well, which was also in the mix, wasn't there? Yeah,
well, it deserves it. Anybody that could drive that car in those 2 years was quite a hero. I drove it fortunately in '71 when it was magnificent. We were doing 246 miles an hour, and it's at Le Mans. I didn't know any better. It was just a piece of cake. But the other guys, Vic Elford and Brian Redman and Stomlin, and you name them all, they battled their way through Le Mans, and they hated it because the cars were so unstable. At the time, of course, that the Fords were still doing a great job.
Mm. And the winning car, which it belongs to a private collection, the short tail 917, that was not expected to win, was it? Tell us the story of the win.
Well, like every race has an amazing story, and every car and every driver, and that's why we all sort of go on for 300 years telling lies. But in all honesty, I had the greatest admiration for Richard Atwood, and he chose to be with Hans Hermann, who was was the sort of the older gentleman in the team, had so much history with Porsche. So he chose Hans Hermann, and knew was going to bring the car home because he had done it before. And himself, Richard's very shrewd, incredibly shrewd, and he had decided that let's look at this practically. Is this car going to win? Is it, driving it flat out? And the answer was it wasn't. It was really the beginning of the Porsche era. So Richard opted with Hans Hermann that they, instead of having the 5-litre engine, which was unproven and would be quicker, they would have the smaller engine at 4.5 litres, and they would also have the short tail. Nothing fancy with the pig or the long. Well, they wasn't the pig that year, but the long tail. And they decided that they were going to play their cards right. And they qualified somewhere down in the 20s, I believe, way down. And they ran in that order. And of course, it was in the days that I think I'm right in saying you sprinted across the road and jumped in. I mean, I'd only just started racing when they were doing that. And I was driving my Formula 3 cars somewhere in the world. So I didn't really follow the race. But and these two guys just drove around, as Richard Atwood only knows how, so smoothly, so perfectly, with Hans Hermann, great drivers both. And they just brought the car home. And that was it. I mean, that was it. It was a heck of a battle to do that. But nonetheless, they drove it perfectly. And that's the whole thing, to be first, you have to be past the checkered flag. And that's what it was all about. And they did that.
Yeah, and that was the start of Porsche dominating motorsport. And they've had a remarkable run ever since, haven't they?
Yes, I mean, it was. And that's why you can't leave them out of that first 10 years because of what they were intending to do. And when you think that when they first built the 917, it didn't pass the rules and regulations because they hadn't built 25 of them. Because when the CSI went along to check it, only about 12 or 15 of them had an engine in. And they're all sitting there in the line. I've seen the picture, and you've probably seen it too. And they're all sitting there, and they went, hello, what happened to the engine in number 16 and 17 and 18 and so on? And they said, you've got a month until whatever month was coming up, sort of the beginning of April, to get an engine in the other, 10 cars 12 cars before you're allowed to race them. And they worked day and night to get those engines in. Otherwise, Porsche would have been in a lot of trouble, I think, because Pierre could probably overstepped his position. But what a brilliant engineer to make it work. And look at that car. Best thing is not to look at it, because if you look at it, you wouldn't drive it. But certainly an amazing machine. And I'm just very flattered and honored to have driven it the year after in 71.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for that, Derek. So just to recap on the scores on the doors then, in third place was the 1963 Ferrari 250p, which is owned by the Simeone Museum. In second, the 1966 Ford GT40, which is Rob Kaufman. And in first place, the 1970 Porsche 917K, and that's owned by a private collection here in the UK. So thank you all very much. Thank you very much for your voting. Thank you, David, for running this particular class. Thank you, Derek, for coming along and joining in. The stories have been great. If people haven't seen the discussion on the Le Mans, there's a round table on the website. I'd urge you to look at it. It's a great conversation there between some real experts at Le Mans. And best of all, this is in aid of UNICEF, so if you do get the opportunity, please visit the Just Giving page and donate to the charity. We've only got a few days left of the Concours. On Sunday, 9th of August, we reveal the best in show. And so watch out for that and look forward to seeing you there. Goodbye.